Welcome to our Retire Early lifestyle. We're glad you're here today watching this information. For those that are new to the channel, we have a whopper for you today, an ounce of prevention being a pound of cure. Take a look at what we're busting today and stay to the end where we give you the solution. Have you seen the videos recently with titles that say 10 countries that are begging Americans to move there? Or how about this one? New countries practically begging Americans to move there. One of the videos even says the country is rolling out the red carpet for Americans. Rolling out the red carpet even, wow. Or how about this one? 10 countries that will pay Americans to move there. Are you kidding? Who falls for this stuff? We know that you don't, but who would actually be gullible enough to believe these types of titles, right? The Retire Abroad media is coming out on the bandwagon with these sensationalized video titles, and then when you read the spiel, it's really just regular government supplying run-of-the-mill, overpriced visas to foreigners. There's no begging. I don't know where that's coming in at. Let's just say nothing is as it appears. In one video that caught our eye, it said that some village in New Zealand will pay people $165,000 to move there. We knew it wasn't true and it was a gimmick. Just like all the other gimmicks on the internet that reel in the gullible people. Sorry folks, reports that we will pay you $165K? It's not true. It's wrong. It was getting so out of hand that the mayor of New Zealand had to come out in public and deny they were paying people to move there. These sensationalistic titles are actually garnering a bunch of views from people that gobble up this hype because their ears want to hear it really bad. It's human nature to believe what we want to hear and put aside what we don't want to hear. The truth is, they may be offering up some delicious incentives to get retirees or digital nomads with a proven income to move there, but it's not because of any of the reasons these videos are saying. They're doing it for their own self-interests. Do you understand that? Ponga, Spain is a prime example of what I'm talking about here. So you have these abandoned little villages all over in the interior of Spain with populations of 200 to 600 people. And they keep shrinking every single year because the young folks move out for more lucrative financial adventures. And, well, the story goes they need people to populate these dying areas. Well, if the village is so great, why aren't Spaniards moving there? And the Spaniards that live there, they're moving out. This is just another one of those Southern European gimmicks, like the €1 houses in Italy. By the way, the Americans are restoring Italy's dying villages because the Italians don't want to move to these little villages where there are no young people and nothing to do and no jobs. So in this town of Ponga, it says it'll pay you £2,600 or €2,971 each person who chooses to relocate there, and they'll add another £2,600 for each baby born there. So I see pounds and euros, but where's the USD? There's only one condition. You have to commit to living in the town for 5 years or more. The scheme aims to bolster the local economy. They're coaxing Spaniards and Brits to move there, but did you notice there's no mention of Americans in their little scheme? So it may not even be granted to Americans. But let's just assume it is granted to Americans too, and so that then they would pay you $3,160 if you move there. Of course, nothing is free. You'll have to live in this village for 5 years or more, and you will not get the dollars in your pocket when you show up. Only after you have lived there for the full 5 years will you see any of that money. But wait, is this really worth it? Would someone actually uproot their entire life for $3,000? Wow. And of course, you still have to meet the requirements of immigration, which as of August 2025 is showing €2,400 per month, which converts to 2,800 USD at the time of this video. So again, $3,000? Americans make that in 1 month. You really need a much better financial incentive than a couple $1,000. It almost seems like a joke. Is this a joke? This type of situation would fit someone who likes small, unpopulated, mountainous towns and that already speaks Spanish and is committed to volunteering themselves in a dying village. If that's you, great. Now, is it true? Are there really countries begging Americans to move there? Let's put on our sense and sensibility caps and see what governments in other countries are saying. We know what the writers and videos are saying. Remain on this channel. There is always a little bit of truth in something, but the rest you have to uncover by weeding out all of the hype and sensationalism to find the real truth. Portugal and Spain are apparently begging Americans to move there, but here's the catch. They really aren't begging, and they don't want just any old American. They want youngish business starters to start a business and create employment to revitalize their dying interiors in tiny villages within Portugal and Spain. But although there may be some exceptions, successful businesses that employ people are not generally started in pin-sized dying villages. Hello? Portugal is also begging Americans to move there and invest $500,000 in their Golden Visa programs. Just 2 Americans signing up for their Golden Visa scheme brings in $1 million. So yeah, they're begging for you to invest your money in their country. Here's where you get to invest your $500,000 in Portugal. You can invest it in investment funds, job creation, scientific research, or cultural heritage. Gone are the days when they were begging Americans to invest their money in property for 2-year residency. They no longer provide that aspect of the Golden Visa since it raised property prices over 100% in the last decade and has displaced hundreds and thousands of locals from their own cities. But look, you will get residency, and all you have to do is invest $500,000 in their country. If that's what you think you would like to spend your money on, well, there's your incentive, residency. And sure, we could see them begging for your $500,000. And now, I don't get it. How is Thailand begging Americans to move to their country? Thailand is one of the countries under the title where they say they're begging Americans to move there. Wait, what? Where is that coming from? Here's what it says. Thailand is actively encouraging foreign professionals, retirees, and investors to relocate by offering a comprehensive package of incentives. Qualified individuals can obtain a 10-year long-term resident visa. Now, why do they say Thailand is actively encouraging? It's just a visa. If that's the case, all countries with visas are actively encouraging, I guess. Their requirements in Thailand are telling Americans they need to make a minimum of $80,000 a year to move to their country. And you do know you will have to pay taxes on that. That's their financial incentive. It's your tax dollars. And what do they give you in return, really? A stamp in a booklet called a passport? Yes, of course, it's the right to be there. But is it worth it? They can manufacture that out of thin air, so it's 100% profit for them. There is no begging, and they're certainly not paying Americans to move to their country either. The last thing that we saw happening in Thailand is they were closing down foreigners' bank accounts because they didn't have a long-term visa. Sounds like they're strong-arming foreigners and trying to slow down traffic to their country, but that's just us. Not only that, but we remember an old book about retiring and walking away to Thailand for $500 a month. What happened? So far, none of these countries are begging Americans to move there. Stop with the overhyping and just talk normal. You're overdoing it with the buildup and making it appear as if these countries really want Americans to move to their country. Another country on the list is Japan. The melodramatic title reads, Japan is paying foreigners to move rule. Reporters are getting this one wrong all over the internet too. This is why we always complain about the copy and paste writers. It's crazy. But anywho, let's look at the visa requirements. Foreigners must meet Japan's visa and residency requirements. This program does not automatically grant a visa or residency status. Applicants must already hold or obtain a visa that allows for long-term residence in Japan. We hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the Japanese are not practically begging Americans to move there. This program is ideal for those who have lived in Japan for an extended period and meet the requirements for permanent residency. And it's typically granted to individuals with Japanese ancestry or special ties to Japan. And actually, some reports are stating they're trying to get their own Japanese citizens to move out of the bigger cities like Tokyo and move to the rural areas. That's really what this is about. And what happens is the true meaning of a report evolves into something it is absolutely not, such as the Japanese government begging for Americans to fill up their dying town. And folks, sorry to reiterate, but just what we mentioned at the beginning of this report, how it's all over YouTube, how New Zealand will pay Americans $165,000 to move there, and we showed you from the mayor himself that is utter nonsense. So far, none of these gobbledygook of other countries begging Americans to move there is anything a sensible person would believe to be real, or that a country is going to pay you to move to their country and there are no hitches. Seriously, would you really go live in a dying town to get paid $3,000? That's $250 a month for a year, or $125 a month for 2 years. Whoop-de-doo! These gimmicks are better suited for the local people, not foreigners who need to be near amenities and food stores. Please, let's get real here. But that's YouTube for you. They put the fake news and the sensationalistic videos at the top of the slush pile while the truth videos stay buried. It's really a travesty. And there are several more countries that are supposedly, practically begging Americans to move there. This language of practically is so silly. They're almost begging Americans to move there. Let's see, one article has Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, and Ecuador practically begging Americans to move there. Is that why Mexico keeps raising the financial bar every year to Americans, and now even digital nomads can't afford Mexico? Sure, Mexico is begging Americans to move to their cities and continue to overpay for everything, so it will raise prices even more, such as rent, food, and housing, as more and more Mexicans become displaced from the city they were born in. Right, Mexico is practically begging Americans to move there, and is why they are now deporting American citizens if found to have overstayed their visa. Before, you could simply just pay the fine, but now they want you to pay the fine and then they'll deport you, maybe banning you for life. Excuse me, but what are we missing here? We won't even talk about Costa Rica, Ecuador, or Colombia and how those countries are allegedly begging Americans to move there right now, because we'd have to make a whole other video for that. Every country has its own self-interests and purpose for how they plan and put together their visas for foreigners. Just because a country has a visa doesn't mean they are practically begging or actively encouraging Americans to move there. Their visas are the same for everyone, not just Americans, and so pushing this hype about how much they want Americans to move there is really silly and overdone. These countries don't have a visa for Germans, and another visa for Colombians, and another visa for Italians, and another visa for Americans. It's all the same visa, okay? Whoever qualifies can buy that visa. Countries sell visas to foreigners. No one is getting a free ride when they move abroad. So then, for instance, in Portugal, when they say they give you $3,000 to go live in the dying villages, essentially what that means is you first have to qualify for Portugal's long-term residency visa, which now you must show an income of 870 euros, which is about 1,020 USD. Then, once you show proof you qualify for residency, then you move to the village or town where they want you, and you live there for 5 years, and at the end of the 5 years, they will hand you the $3,000. Wow, $3,000. Countries are not paying anyone to move to their country that cannot qualify and buy their immigration visa. And the visas are all becoming overpriced and really self-interest visa offerings. Nothing else in the world is so widely pushed and hyped up to Americans than moving abroad. Why is that? Why do reports and videos continually entice and lure Americans with glitter and gold and a cherry on top where nothing bad happens? But we know better than that, don't we? Could it be that they appeal to a population that dreams of a way out of their miserable lives? Henry David Thoreau, the American 19th century poet, said, "The mass of men and women leads a life of quiet desperation." Is it true? Could this be why these video titles do so well? Is it a confirmation of the state of our lives that we must be dreaming of a land far, far away where our imaginations are flexed to the ridiculous, just like Alice in Wonderland? The move abroad peddlers work overtime to lure unsuspecting victims into the traps and scams of life in another country. But our viewers know better and won't fall for it. Do you think we're being too harsh or negative? We have to be, to counter and balance out all of this hypish sensationalism and propaganda coming from the move abroad peddlers. But the other side of the story is this: live your life one day at a time, and every day do something you enjoy. That's what we do, and you will have no regrets, and you will not be taken in by the dream peddlers. Problem, solution. That's it for this information. Until next video, stay well, take care, and bye-bye.